for today, you're going to be looking at telling the time to the nearest hour, half past the hour, quarter past and quarter to. Here's a mental starter for you, so when you're ready, pause the film and then you can mark the answers. So our focus this week is telling the time. And in stage 1, we're going to look at telling time o'clock times and half past times. So the first thing you need to know when telling the time is you've got a longer hand. This is your minute hand. And you've got the shorter hand. This is your hour hand. And I would always say find the shortest hand first. So you identify what the hour is first of all. Now when our minute hand, the longest hand, is pointing to the 12, it's an o'clock time. So what you do is you look down at the clock and you'd say, okay, where's my hour hand, the shortest hand? My hour hand is pointing to the 8. My minute hand, the longest hand, is pointing to 12. So I know it is 8 o'clock. Right, watch me. My minute hand is pointing to the 12, so I know it's an o'clock time. So I go to my hour hand. It's pointing to the 8 o'clock. My long hand is pointing to the 12, so I know it's an o'clock time. And I look at the short hand, the hour hand. It's pointing to the 3, so it's 3 o'clock. My long hand is pointing to the 12, that's my minute hand, so I know it's an o'clock time. So I go to my hour hand, and it's pointing to the 2, so I know it's 2 o'clock. Right, you have a go at the 3 down below. Pause the film when you need to, and then restart it when you're ready. 4 o'clock. 9 o'clock. 10 o'clock. Here are some for you to have a go at, so pause the film when you're ready. Now if you were writing it, you would write it as 9, and you could write it as a number, and then the words o'clock. Or you could write it in numbers like this. You'd see that on a digital clock. For the moment, we can focus on the words. Right, pause the film, have a go, and when you're ready, restart it. So we've got 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Don't get confused here, shortest hand is pointing to the 6, that's my hour hand, 6 o'clock. 11 o'clock. 7 o'clock. 12 o'clock. Now when you come to do this yourself, when you're doing your worksheet, you've got the choice. You could write it in words, you can write it in numbers. You could write it like this, 9 o'clock. Or you could write it 9, and you've got ... 00, 9 o'clock. It means the same thing. Right, we're ready to move on to half past. Now if you have a look at a clock face, you can see a clock face is made up of a circle. And here's my minute hand. My minute hand is pointing to the 12, so we know it's an o'clock time. When this minute hand travels all the way around the clock, we know it's been an hour. So if we look down at the clock down here, we can see it would now be 2 o'clock. So this minute hand has travelled all the way around the clock. It's travelled 1 hour, and we know there's 60 minutes in an hour. So if I split my clock in half, we know there's going to be 30 minutes on this side and 30 minutes on this side. And we can prove it by counting in 5s. We start at 0 on the top, 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. 30 minutes on this side, 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And 30 minutes on this side. Now when it's 30 minutes past, we say half past. And we say half past because it is half of the clock. You can see that red line dividing the clock in half. 30 minutes on this side and 30 minutes on this side. So when we're telling the time for a half past time, the first thing we do is we can see the minute hand here is pointing down at the 6. That is splitting the clock in half. So just like when we know when the minute hand's pointing to the 12 is an o'clock time, when the minute hand, the long hand, is pointing to the 6, we know it's a half past time. Now have a look at where the hour hand is, and you'll notice that it's halfway between the 1 and the 2. This is telling you that it is half past 1 because it's gone past the 1. It hasn't gone past the 2 yet, so you know that it's not been 2 o'clock yet. The last o'clock time would have been 1 o'clock, and the minute hand's travelled all the way round, halfway round the clock, so it is now half past 1. Don't get confused and say half past 2. It could only be half past 2 if the hour hand's actually gone past the 2. Right. My minute hand's pointing down at the 6, so I know it's a half past time. I know it's gone 30 minutes past the last o'clock time. I look at the hour hand. The hour hand is halfway between the 11 and the 12, so it's only gone past the 11. So it is half past 11. Now, when you come to write your answers, you could write it like this. You could write it in words, half past 11. It would be okay to write it in words and numbers like this, half past 11. Or, if you're thinking about a digital clock, you'd see it written like this, 11 ... 30. And that's showing you that it's been 30 minutes since it was 11 o'clock. You can write it in the way that you find easiest. Most people find it easiest doing this middle one here, half past 11, and just writing the number in the word number as a number. Right, let's have a look at this next one. The minute hand's pointing down to the 6, so we know it's a half past time. The hour hand has gone past the 3, so it is half past 3. We could write it in words, half past 3. We could write it as half past and then 3 is a number. We could write it 3:30. Okay, here are some for you to have a go at, so you can pause the film when you're ready and then check your answers. It's a half past time, and the hour hand's gone past the 2, so it's half past 2. It's a half past time because the minute's on hand's on the 6, and the hour hand has gone past the 7, so it's half past 7. It's a half past time because the minute hand's pointing to the 6, and the hour hand has gone past the 9, so it's half past 9. Here are some for you to have a go at, so pause the film when you're ready, and then when you're ready you can mark it. If you were writing it, you could write it as half past 10, or in numbers 10:30. Half past 4, half past 6. Here's my hour hand, half past 12, half past 8, half past 5. We're now going to move on to the next part of stage 1, which is looking at quarter past, this part of the clock, and quarter to the hour. We read time as either minutes past the hour or minutes to the hour. So when we're thinking about time past the hour, we always start at the top of the clock on the o'clock time. That, in a way, I like to think of it as 00 when it's the o'clock time. And then we count round the clock in 5-minute jumps. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. That was our half past. If we're thinking about quarter past and quarter to, they have special names. Have a look. When we're on the 12, we say that's o'clock. When we're on the 6, we say that's half past. When we're on the 3, when our minute hand is on the 3, we call it quarter past. When our minute hand is on the 9, we call it quarter to. Now they have special names because, as you can see from the clock here, we've split our clock into quarters. Before we'd only split it into half, which is why the 6 was half past. But now we've split it into quarters. So this quarter here represents quarter past, and this quarter here on the 9 represents quarter to. We're going to focus on quarter past first of all. So I look at my minute hand. My minute hand is on quarter past. I look at the hour and I can see it's just gone past the 5. That's telling me it was 5 o'clock. It was the last o'clock time, and it's now 5:15. Or we could write it in numbers as 5:15 because it is 5, 10, 15 minutes past. I look at my hour hand, it's just gone past the 10. And I look at my minute hand, it's on the 15:15. So 10:15 or 10:15. Right, here's some for us to have a go at. So pause it when you're ready. If you want to have a go at it by yourself, or if you need just a bit more help, then just keep watching. Here's my hour hand. It's just gone past the 1, and my minute hand is on the 15:15. So I'd say 1:15. I could write it in words as 1:15, or I could write it in numbers as 1:15. If the numbers confuse you a bit at the moment, the digital time, then don't worry about it. Just think about it in words as 1:15. My hour hand's gone past the 9, and my minute hand is on the 1:15. 9:15. My hour hand has just gone past the 5, and my minute hand is on the 1:15. 5:15. Here are some for you to have a go at. So the hour hand's gone past the 12, and the minute hand is on the 1:15. The hour hand's just gone past the 11. 11:15. The hour hand's just gone past the 7. 7:15. Here are some for you to have a go at, so pause the film when you're ready, and then you can check and mark once you've done them. 8:15 or 8:15. 10:15 or 10:15. 6:15 or 6:15. And 1:15 or 1:15. You're now ready to move on to 2:15. So if we think back to our clock, we split it into quarters. We had o'clock, 1/4, 1/2, 2:15. So whenever the minute hand is on the 9, it is telling us it is 1/4 the next o'clock time. And that's really important, because if you have a look at your hour hand here, you can see it's almost on the 6, but not quite. That's telling us that there is 1/4 of an hour until it is 6 o'clock. So we would say 5:45. Now, if we were to write it in digital numbers, it would be 5:45. And that can be a little bit confusing. We're going to look at that later in the week, so don't worry if it confuses you now. The reason why it's 5:45 is because it's not 6 o'clock yet. The last o'clock time would have been 5 o'clock. And since it was 5 o'clock, the minute hand would have travelled 45 minutes round the clock. So we say 5:45. But in words, and that's the bit we're focusing on today, 5:45. So just focus on the words. If you're getting a bit worried about the digital numbers, leave it. If you're feeling really confident, then I'd like you to challenge yourself to be saying the time in words, 5:45, and to have a go at saying the time written in digital form, 5:45. Right, watch me. Here's my hour hand. It's not quite on the 3 yet, so it's going to be 3 o'clock. I look at my minute hand and it's on the 2:15, so I say it's 2:45, or the last o'clock time would have been 2 o'clock, and it's been 45 minutes since it was 2 o'clock, so 2:45. Remember, if these numbers confuse you, don't worry about it. Just ignore it. Right. My hour hand is almost on the 5, so it's nearly 5 o'clock, and it is 4:45 because my minute hand's on the 9, so I say 4:45 or 4:45. My hour hand is almost on the 11, and the minute hand is on the 11 or 10:45. Right, you have a go at these. Just do it in words first of all, and if you're feeling super confident, you can have a go at the numbers as well. The hour hand is almost on the 10, 10:15. The hour hand is almost on the 7, 7:15. And the hour hand is almost on the 1, quarter to 1. Here are some for you to have a go at, so pause the film when you're ready, and then restart to check your answers. Quarter to 3 or 2:45. Quarter to 12 or 11:45. Quarter to 4, 3:45. Quarter to 9, 8:45. And quarter to 6, 5:45. You're now ready to have a go at the tasks. Bronze, all you have to do is circle the correct times. Silver, you need to write the time in words, so you could write it as 3 o'clock, or you can write it in the digital form 3.00. And gold, you need to draw the hands on the clocks. Now, don't forget here, it's really, really important you make sure your minute hand is the longer hand and your hour hand is the shorter hand. If when you've drawn it, there's no difference between the lengths, no one's going to know which is the minute hand and which is the hour hand. Good luck.